Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest, Chapter 79. When we last left our heroes, the fight with Youko commenced with her army of infinite demons. Not 100, it's a metaphor for large numbers in her own terms. But it got some good action highlights out of Natsu and Erza, and it got Lucy to summon all of the Zodiac in one epic showcase of her powers, combined with Elantier's overabundance of magic. But it didn't really do much because Youko can just keep summoning more yokai infinitely, which led Erza to take the fight directly to Youko. Youko kind of deflected with a bunch of little paper doll clones, but Erza declared that she would put an end to infinity, and that's where we left off. So let's jump right on into Chapter 79, Outer Path Omagatoki. We see Natsu and Erza here behind chains, with the caption, "These bonds are unbreakable." It's a pretty cool looking thing. Anyway, we open with Natsu and Greg and Loki and Taurus all fighting various yokai. We see the same with Carla, Wendy, Virgo, and Aquarius. And again with Lucy, Scorpio, that Cancer? Cancer. Lucy, Cancer, Aries, Plu, and Happy. For some reason, I've always kind of gotten Cancer and Scorpio confused. Anyway, speaking of Scorpio, he's there with Aquarius fighting yokai, but we just see the unending horde of them. And then we see Erza running at Youko, who brandishes her sword. Youko kind of deflects it, or blocks it with her staff. And Youko calls, "Come on, my yokai! Can you protect me?" And a whole bunch of yokai come jumping over at Erza. And Erza just cuts through them. "Be gone!" And Youko glares at her, "Damn you!" And as their sword and staff kind of clash, Erza goes for a kick up Yoko's chin. And Youko kind of is sent flying back. As Erza just holds her sword between them. And Youko kind of kneels. One hand kind of grasping the ground, the other pointing up. "I see now. Interesting." And Erza looks at her. "It's been a while, but I guess I ought to use that against you, huh?" And then we see back with Natsu. He's just taking down another yokai. And then behind a bunch more yokai, he notices something. And it's a little, Tanuki pot yokai. I think there's a term for it, but I don't remember what it is. But with his scarf. "That's my scarf! Why, you... Hold still!" And he just, runs past all the yokai he's fighting. "I'll burn you alive! Give it back!" And just, runs through the cave trying to catch this little yokai. That random diversion that I'm guessing is going to have some kind of comic role in the defeat of Youko. But that diversion aside, we come back to Youko, who is summoning something. Seems powerful. Erza kind of feel the energy in the room. "What is this power?" And Youko, I think, is brandishing two swords. And she's turned into this sort of demon woman. Four-armed demon woman. She's got black markings going down around her all over her body, honestly. "I have used my spirit art to turn myself into a yokai. Outer Path Omagatoki." Omagatoki is a Japanese term for twilight, when yokai and evil spirits appear. So she's not just a yokai, she is kind of the time of yokai. Alright, that's certainly something. Let's see how much of a fight she puts up, though. And Erza looks at her. 4 arms? And all 4 arms come, rushing for Erza, who has to deflect them all with one sword. And she manages, mostly. She dodges, she kind of deflects when she can. But she seems very much on the defensive now. And yeah, there Youko gets a slash in. Erza, though, does seem to have 2 swords. I thought she only had 1. But she does seem to have 2 on the top of page 11. But yeah, she gets a good slash in her side. But she still kind of continues to deflect. Then she gets another cut on her cheek, and Youko taunts her, heh heh heh, you can't defend yourself with just 2 arms. And Erza kind of smiles weakly. That's very true. In that case, requip! And I'm guessing she's going to go back to Bloom and Blot. Or no, the 1,000-armed armor. This time with 6 arms. I'm trying to remember if we've seen that armor before. Let me see if I can do a quick wiki search. I can't find it. I can find a quick Google search gives me Amadora Fairy and Nakagami armor. Amadora Fairy is from I'm trying to remember what fight this is. I'm not sure. The wiki is not very helpful there. Nakagami armor, of course, from her fight with Minerva and Kagura. Looking at I think this is from Daedalus. But that's not what we have here. So that's a bit of a sidetrack. So yeah, I think this might be a new armor, possibly. If someone knows where it first shows up, please point me to it, because I don't remember this armor at all. Either way, it gives her 6 arms, which is not quite 1,000 arms, but it does the job. And Youko is kind of taken aback by it. What? And then Erza tells her every arm is connected to an SE plug. It can be moved separately, though I suppose the one drawback is that it's quite heavy. It's really just equipment for the Magnolia Harvest Festival parade, but yeah, I suppose I can use it like this. So she just kind of wears it for a parade. It's just supposed to look cool, but it does technically have 6 arms that she can use, I guess. Alright. And Youko starts to kind of panic. Hold on! And Erza just goes to town on her. All of a sudden, Youko is the one on the defensive. And Youko kind of, starts to panic. And Erza taunts as a callback to what Youko said. You can't defend yourself with just 4 arms. And then we just see, lines of sword slashes that, clutter the panel. As Youko starts to really panic. And I think that might be the end of her. With Erza's attack, 1,000 arms, scattering of spirits. So if that is the end of this fight, I will say, it's not a horrible ending, especially because Youko is not a villain I care a whole lot about, all things considered. But, Erza pulls out a never-before-seen armor that's perfect for this situation and wins, is not exactly the height of originality, or even really interesting. Interest would just be the height of interest. Not terribly interesting, I mean. It gets the job done, and it's a cool look. So I think it works in the end. But it could be a lot better. Anyway, Youko just screams, "Gwah!" And I think this is the end for her, because we see Celine's kind of dark grin, as Mimi and Hakane panic. Youko dono! Oh dear. And Youko hits the ground, and Erza equips back to normal as she turns back to Youko, and all the yokai sort of fade away. Yeah, Yoko's done. And Gray calls the yokai on Loki. They're disappearing. Happy is just collapse on the ground. We're saved! And Carla is, slumped, exhausted. I wondered when that would happen. And Wendy just calls, we did it! And yeah, the whole cavern clears of yokai. Youko is defeated. Alright. And Lucy turns to Aquarius and Loki. Thank you, everyone. And Aquarius just responds, don't mention it. And then Virgo turns to Lucy. Incidentally, princess, I haven't seen Natsu-san since just earlier. So, okay. I thought that little diversion with Natsu earlier that I'd forgotten about for a little bit, was going to, relate to Yoko's defeat. But apparently not. We'll see what it actually turns into. Maybe he, runs into Suzaku. That's my bet. He's gonna run into Suzaku while he's out. And Lucy looks at her, huh? And Cancer, you don't think he's hurt, Ebby? Scorpio responds, "We. He's not the only one." And Aries kind of cries, "Maybe it's my fault. I'm so sorry." Capricorn, knowing Natsu-sama, he ran after a teapot with his scarf in that direction. And Taurus responds, "A teapot? Moo, it looked like a tanuki to me." And Natsu is still chasing it, even after he's now outside the mountain. But even after Yoko's death, the yokai is still, or Yoko's defeat at the very least, and the dispersal of all the other yokai, the teapot is still there. Natsu chases after it. "Hold it right there! Give me back my scarf!" And then it disappears. Presumably this is a bit before the previous scene. And then this moment right here is right when Yoko is defeated. Anyway, the yokai disappears. Natsu reacts. "It's gone! What a relief. My scarf's okay." He puts his scarf back on, and he looks around. "Anyway, where am I? I got separated from everyone." And then he sees a shadow approaching him, and what did I tell ya? It's Suzaku, who looks around. "Indeed, Black Moon Mountain is here, is it not?" And then he notices Natsu, and Natsu notices him. Who's he? To be continued next time. Okay, this is a fun enough chapter. Like I said earlier, Erza pulling out the perfect, never-before-seen armor for this exact situation is, like, a little cheap. Just a little cheap. But it works well enough, I suppose. It could be a lot better, but, like, it works. And, like, Yoko is just, like, the first of two more enemies before we get to the boss. So for the first kind of victory Fairy Tail has really had, first full total victory Fairy Tail has had in Elentier, it works. It could be better, but, I mean, it does the job. Not a whole lot to say about it besides that. It's perfectly functional. It's not exactly a fist-pumping fuck yeah moment. It just sort of is. And yeah, so I guess compared to the rest of what we've had in the mountain, this is kind of a, probably the weakest chapter of the mountain sub-arc. Just in that, like, as a resolution, it's sort of lame feels like a harsher term than I'm going for, but, like, it's not great. It's fine. It does the job. It's not great. And there's also just not a lot to talk about beyond that. Like, Yoko pulls out one final form, and there's, I think part of my problem is that the form has no real way to beat Erza beyond just having more arms than her, and so it loses as soon as Erza gets more arms. And I feel like Erza even could have, like, done Blumenblatt and, like, just used, like, the Wheel of Swords to come at Yoko from all directions, and it could have worked. So I don't know, it just feels sort of, with all of the build-up Yoko has had, turning everyone into yokai, and then having her infinite army of yokai, and then having her traps. I mean, I get that, like I guess a lot of Mashima villains sort of either are strong fighters or big schemers, and there are very few that can do both. Which is definitely the case here. Yoko has a bunch of tricks and schemes, and when she runs out of them, she falls really quickly. So I guess that's fine. But it's just sort of, her ultimate form has nothing to it besides the number of arms, and so it loses when Erza gets her own extra arms. It's not great. It's not horrible. There are definitely worse things that could happen. But it's definitely a weaker moment, I'll say. Anyway, for more interesting things, Natsu and Suzaku. And so I suppose it's time to find out how exactly Suzaku will treat Fairy Tail. That was sort of a question that 77 raised, when he was like, if they're in my way, I'll kill them, and Ferris and Toko were like, please don't kill them, they're on our side. And Natsu is not exactly the best ambassador to make you not want to kill Fairy Tail if you're already just if you're already like predisposed to be an enemy of Fairy Tail. Um, so this could end badly. If it were like Lucy or Erza or Wendy or even Gray, I could be like, okay, they like negotiate and have a come to an agreement. Natsu's gonna start a fight. I just know it, and it's gonna end poorly. Um, but yeah, we'll see what comes of that. Um, so yeah, not a great chapter, but it gets the job done well enough. But anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. You know, do whatever makes you happy. You know, and remember, your life is your own. Okay, bye.